නව ඩොමෙක්ස් වැල්ලම් සහ විසබීජ අවම කර දින 3ක් දක්වා ටොයිලට් එක ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ව තමයි. ඩොමෙක්ස්.
Tonight, illegal means the central bank governor gives forex holders 2 weeks to get with the system.
It's the same thing like illicit liquor. It's a legal business. But still there are some people doing that. So there may be some people who are willing to take the risk and giving that money. But we are giving them a warning.
Step by step, the Prime Minister announces plans to begin a fuel stockpile to avoid shortages and says that queues can't be stopped completely. Raining down, Inter-University Student Federation protesters welcomed with tear gas and water cannons in Fort today. Come together. Former Minister Navin Desanayake says unity between political rivals the UNP and SJB a must.
We should look at this as Sri Lankan and give him a chance at least, maybe 3, 4, 5 or 6 months to revive this and get us going again.
All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9, this Thursday the 19th of May, 2022.
Nelly මතකෙන් ගිලිහුණු black shiny කෙස් කලඹක රහස sunsilk black shine සමගින්.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're watching First at 9 with me, David Ebert. Now, the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka today announced that it will be keeping its standing deposit facility and standing lending facility rates at their current levels of 13.5 and 14.5%. Addressing the Monetary Board media briefing today, where the latest decisions were announced, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe announced further measures to maintain economic stability. Among these was the re-implementation of a margin requirement, where importers of non-essential items must have money ready in advance to open letters of credit. In addition, the governor also announced that plans are afoot to lower the limit on foreign currency holdings by the public to $10,000 from $15,000. The central bank aims to crack down and seize foreign currency that has been held by private individuals for more than 3 months. The central bank today announced no change to its standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate, keeping them at their current levels of 13.5 and 14.5% respectively. Further, the Monetary Board also announced that although inflation is projected to remain elevated in the near term, the substantial policy measures taken by the board at its meeting held on the 8th of April, combined with the other measures to stem the firming up of aggregated demand pressures, are expected to contain any further build-up of inflation expectations and ease inflationary pressures. The central bank says that it also intends to use all instruments at its disposal, including liquidity injections, to stabilize interest rates, which Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe is of the opinion that they have overshot and require some adjustment. Dr. Veerasinghe explained that the central bank has moved to reject most treasury bill market bids yesterday that had come in above 24%, adding that this will continue until interest rates moderate. In the meantime, in his address before taking media questions, Dr. Veerasinghe explained how recent central bank interventions have already begun to show results.
Then on the exchange rate, if you observed in the last media conference, we announced certain measures. I'm glad to see the market is responding well, and working banks and all the other exporters or importers are following the guidance. And as a result, there are positive developments in the foreign exchange market. First, the black market premium has now come down significantly and falling in line with what we see the market interest rates within the banking sector. So that is one positive development, and we would expect that to continue because with several other measures. First one, the banning open accounts will be effective from 20th of this month. After that, the incentive for grey market activities, incentive for even exporters and others, remittances, to be used and to finance all these non-essential imports will not be there. So as a result, this grey market rates should be coming down further. As a result, the exchange rate now is turned around, and it will continue to, with more foreign exchange coming into the banking system, there will be more liquidity that we already see. The liquidity is gradually increasing in the foreign exchange market in the banking sector. That will help to stabilize the exchange rate further.
Further, the governor also explained that in order to support this, other measures have also been taken, such as bringing back a margin requirement from today, where importers of non-essential items must have money ready in advance to open LCs, which will automatically raise the cost of goods. In addition, the governor also announced that plans are afoot to lower the limit on foreign currency holdings by the public to $10,000 from $15,000. Further, the central bank aims to crack down and seize foreign currency that has been held for over 3 months. The governor then responded to a question on whether criminalization of such an activity could be counterproductive.
That's why we are giving 2 weeks time and giving attractive exchange rate for them to come and deposit this money. It's not criminalized. We can impose fines. It's not a criminal offense. If they are willing to go underground, that's their decision. Also, they have a risk. That's why we are indicating if anyone goes underground with their foreign currency holdings, that's their decision. But there's a risk in all. These people might lose all of their holdings. If that is caught or if someone gives us information, if we found it, they'll be losing. That's we are giving a warning that you have a choice. Whether you go underground and keep that money wherever hiding. It's like people are possessing something illegal and obviously then they have to hide this. It's the same thing like illicit liquor. It's a legal business. But still there are some people doing that. So there may be some people who are willing to take the risk and keeping that money. But we are giving them a warning.
In the meantime, the governor was also questioned on the possibility of introducing incentives for foreign currency remittances, to which he replied that he felt such moves are unfair on Sri Lanka's taxpayers.
අපේ මේ රටේ බදු ගෙවන ජනතාවගේ මුදලින් ඉන්සෙන්ටිව් දෙන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. ඒක වැරදි ක්‍රමයක්. මගේ අදහස විදියට. මොකද හේතුව එයා විදේශෙට ගිහිල්ලා වැඩ කළා මුදල් ලැබෙන තමන්ගේ පවුලේ අයට. ඒතර ඒ මුදල් වලට කිසිම බද්දක් නැහැ. ඒ රටේ බදු ගෙවන නැති මේ රටේ බදු ගන්න නැහැ. ඒ වගේම තමයි මේ රටේ ඉඳගෙන ඒ වගේම වැඩ කළා ජනතාවක් තමන්ගේ පවුල් වලට උපයන ආදායමෙන් පවුල් නඩත්තු කරනවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ ගෙවනවා බදු. ඒතර ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන බදු සල්ලි වලින් අරයට ඉන්සෙන්ටිව් දෙන්න කියන එක මම හිතන්නේ වැරදි ප්‍රතිපත්තිය. ඒ නිසා තමයි ඔය ගොඩක් ඒවා මම දකින්නේ දේශීය විනිමය පිට රට ඉන්න අය කතා කරාම හැමදෙස්සම ඉල්ලන දැන් අපි සල්ලි වන්නම් අපට දෙන්න ඩියුටි කාප පර්මිට් එකක්. ඉල්ලීමම කරන්න එයා සල්ලි හම්බ කරලා සල්ලි වෙනවා තමන්ගේ පවුලට. ඊට අමතරව මෙහෙ බදු ගෙන කෙනාත් එයාට තමක් කර දෙන්න කියලා කියනවා. ඒක අසාධාරණ දෙයක් නෙවෙයිද?
Now, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe in Parliament explained to the House that sufficient stocks of diesel and petrol have been secured that could suffice until mid-June. However, he stressed that the government will not immediately look to completely get rid of fuel queues right away. Instead, he explained that steps will be taken to build up a fuel stockpile to avoid shortages in the event of shipment delays in the future. In the meantime, the Premier also called on the chairman of COPE to summon Litro gas officials tomorrow to explain the delays in unloading of an LP gas shipment that has arrived in the country.
අපි ඊයේ ඉල්ලීමක් කරා පෙට්‍රල් සඳහා පෝලිං වල ඉන්න එපා කියද්දිත් අද දවසෙත් අපි දකිනවා විශාල වශයෙන් පෙට්‍රල් සඳහා විශාල පෝලිං තියෙනවා. මේ පෝලිං වල හිටියට අද දවසේ අපිට නිකුත් කරන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ පෙට්‍රල්. ඩීසල් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම නිකුත් කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් ඊයේ රාත්‍රී 10 මාට තමයි ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමත් ජනාධිපතිතුමත් කතා කරලා මහ බැංකුවෙන් එළිය තියෙන නෞකාවට මුදල් ටික ගෙව්වේ. අද උදේ 8 මාට තමයි මේ නෞකාව අපේ වරායට ආවේ. ඒ නිසා අද රාත්‍රී කාලේ වෙනවා මේ නෞකාවෙන් ඉන්ධන ටික ගොඩ බාන්න. ඒ ගොඩ බාලා ඉවරලා දවස් දෙකක් යනවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ හැම ඉන්ධන පිරවමකට පෙට්‍රල් ටික ලබා දෙන්න. 20 වෙනිදා මේක එන්නේ ඉන්දියාවේ මුදල් වලින් ස්වර්ණමාලා එතනින් එනවා ඩීසල් මෙට්‍රික් ටන් 30000කුත් සුපර් ඩීසල් මෙට්‍රික් ටන් 7000කුත්. දැන් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා ඉන්දියන් ක්‍රෙඩිට් ලයින් එකේ GT ෆ්‍රීඩම් ඒකේ ආවේ අප්‍රේල් මාසේ තාම දැන් තමයි ඒක අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ වරායට ගේන්න. 29 30 වෙනිදා එනවා ඉන්දියන් ක්‍රෙඩිට් ලයින් එකෙන් තව ඩීසල් මෙට්‍රික් ටන් 38000ක්. තව එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා මයි පළවෙනිදා නිසෝස් ඩෙලොස් ඒකේ තියෙනවා සයිබීරියන් ලයිට් ක්‍රූඩ් ඔයිල් මෙට්‍රික් ටන් 90000ක්. තාම මුදල් නැහැ. ඊයේ එකක් ආවා. අද ඊළඟ නැව එනවා. ඒක නැව් දෙකක් පෙට්‍රල් එක ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒත් පෝලිං ඉවර කරන්නේ නැහැ. පෝලිං කෙටි කරන්න බලන්නේ. මොකද අපි ආපහු ඉන්ධන සංචතියක් ඇති කරන්න ඕනේ. නැත්නම් එක නැවක් කල් ගියොත් ආපහු මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ එනවා. ගෑස් පිළිබඳ දැන් වරායට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා නියෝග දීලා තිබුණේ ලොඩි දාලා ගෙනියන්න කියලා. ඊයේ රෑ 8 වෙනකන් ලොඩි දාලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. අපේ විශේෂයෙන්ම කෝප් කොමිටියේ සභාපතිතුමාට කියන්න කැමති හෙට ලිට්‍රෝ ගෑස් කණ්ඩායම ගෙනල්ලා ඇයි ප්‍රමාද වුනේ කියලා හොයලා වාර්තාවක් දෙන්න කියලා. මොකද මෙහෙම මිනිස්සු දුක් විඳින අවස්ථාවේදී මේගොල්ලෝ නිකන් කල් ගන්න එක වැඩ ඒගොල්ලෝ දුවලා වැඩ කරනවා. අපි ඔක්කොම වැඩ කරනවා. තව තීරණයක් අරගත්තා අලුතෙන් ඇමතිවරු පත් කරනවාද කියලා. පත් කරනකොට ඒ අය ඇමතිවරුන්ගේ වැටුප් ලබා ගන්න නැහැ කියලා මම කියන්න කැමතියි. ඇමතිවරුන්ට තියෙන වරප්‍රසාද අඩු කරන්නත් අපි සාකච්ඡා කළා දැනුම් දෙනවා.
කොළඹ නගරයේ තත්ත්වය ඉතාම දරුණුයි. කොළඹ නගරේ මිනිස්සුන්ට දැන් සුමාන 3ක් තිස්සේ ගෑස් නැහැ. කණ්ඩ තියෙන පොඩි කඩවලු තුවාල තියෙනවා ගෑස් නැහැ. ඊළඟට මේ නගරේ ඉන්න මිනිස්සුන්ට දර නැහැ. සුමාන ගානකින් භූමි තෙල් ටිකක් නැහැ. ඒ හින්දා හෙට අනිද්දා වෙනකොට කොළඹ නගරේ මිනිස්සු පාරට බහිනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ආයි කියන්න එපා අරයා උසි ගන්නවා මෙයා උසි ගන්නවායි කියලා.
මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කිව්වේ කැටියට විශාල අසහනයක් කොළඹ නගරේ තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම අපිට දැන් ඉන්න වාර්තා අනුව තමන්ගේ දෛනික ආහාර වලටත් මුදල් මදි. ඒකයි මම බලන්නේ අලුත් අයවැයක් ගෙනල්ලා මුදල් දෙන්න සහන වලට. විශේෂයෙන්ම ජූනි මාසේ මැද වෙනකන් අපිට ඉන්ධන තියෙනවා. ඒත් විශේෂයෙන්ම හෙට ගැන මම කියන්න කැමති රාජ්‍යයේ අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවා හැර අනික් සේවකයන්ට වැඩට එන්න එපා කියලා අපි කියනවා. මොකද එතනින් ඉන්ධන ටිකක් අපිට බේර ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නැති ගමන් වල යන්න එපා කියලා හෙට ඉල්ලනවා.
ගෝටා ගෝ හෝම් කියන සටන් පාඨය රටේ හැමතුණු ප්‍රචලිත වුණා. නමුත් මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා තමයි ගෙදර ගියේ. දැන් ආණ්ඩුවක් හැදුවා. ඔබතුමා දන්නවද IMF එක ලියුමක් එවලා තියෙනවා. අපි උදව් කරන්නේ අලුත් ආණ්ඩුවකට. මේක අලුත් ආණ්ඩුවක්ද? පරණ වයින් අලුත් බෝතල් වල. තාම කැබිනට් එක පත් කරගන්න බැරි වුණා. ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා යටතේ පත් වෙන කිසිම ආණ්ඩුවකට ජාත්‍යන්තර ආධාර හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. සියලු දෙනා එක්කව වෙන්න ඕන ආණ්ඩුවක් හදන්න ඕන. අපි ඒකට පක්ෂයි. නමුත් ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාගේ ප්‍රධානත්වයෙන් ආණ්ඩුව හදන්න අපි සූදානම් නැහැ. අපේ පැත්තෙන් කිසිම කෙනෙක් එන්නේ නැහැ කියන එකත් මම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී මතක් කරනවා.
Now, following instructions issued by the IGP to the police filling station in Narayanpeta to begin issuing fuel on cash basis to parliamentarians' vehicles today, public outrage followed after social media posts showed oil prices displayed on the fuel pump. Responding to this, Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara today called for the suspension of fuel issues until the police department investigates the issue. He also explained that no subsidized fuel rates have been provided to MPs and that the prices at the police fuel pump had not been updated.
Yesterday, the Inspector General of Police issued directives to the Police Transport Division filling station in Narayanpeta to commence dispensing fuel to the vehicles of parliamentarians for cash payments. This was done upon a request made by Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapabewardena. However, posts on social media showing fuel pumps at the filling station displaying old fuel rates stirred up public outrage over the subsidizing of fuel to parliamentarians, while the general public are forced to queue up in miles-long lines to purchase fuel at current rates. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara today took to Twitter to address the issue. He stated that while he understands the frustration and anger from the public, posts shared on MPs being given subsidized fuel rates are false, and that no MP from either side has been given subsidized rates. Further, addressing Parliament this morning, Minister Wijesekara said MPs of the ruling party and the opposition have come under unfair criticism due to these erroneous posts.
කනිජ තෙල් සංස්ථාව මේ මොහොතේදීවත් මීට පෙරදීවත් කිසිම අවස්ථාවක කිසිම മന്ത്രിවරයෙක්ට වෙළඳ පොලේ මිලට අඩු මුදලකට කොහෙවත් තෙල් මිලදී ගැනීම සඳහා ඉඩ සලසලා දීලා නැහැ. ඉදිරියට දෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඔබතුමා විශේෂයෙන්ම පොලිස්පතිවරයාගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කළ තිබුණා පහුගිය දවසේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු සතියේදී. පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට පැමිණෙන മന്ത്രിවරුන්ට ඒ අවශ්‍ය ඉන්ධන පහසුකම් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා යම් ඉඩකඩක් ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එක පිළිබඳව. එතන මේ පොලිස් ස්ථානයේ පවතින ඉන්ධන පිරවුම් වලින් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අලවියක් සිදු කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේම පොලිසිය නිලධාරීන්ට නිකුත් කරන්නේ මුදලට නෙවෙයි ඔවුන්ට ලීටර් ප්‍රමාණයට පමණයි ඔවුන්ගේ නාරාහෙම්පිට ගරාජයෙන් නිකුත් කිරීමේ කටයුත්තක් කරන්නේ. ඒ වගේම ඔබතුමාගේ ඉල්ලීම මත පොලිස්පතිවරයා අපෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරාම මේ අදාළ දින කීපය පමණක් අත්පිට මුදලට ලබා දෙන්න කටයුතු කරන්න කියන එක වෙළඳ පොලේ පවතින සිල්ලර බිලට. නමුත් බරපතල වැරද්දක් සිදු කළා තියෙනවා පොලිස් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ ගරාජයේ විසින් මේ තියෙන ඩිස්පෙන්සර් එක යාවත් කාලින කළා නැහැ. මේ 121ක අගය තියෙන්නේ මාස කීපයකට පෙර තිබුණු අගයක්. ඔවුන් මේ තාක්ෂණික වැරද්ද ඒ සිද්ධ කළා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි වහාම විශේෂයෙන්ම අත්පිට මුදලට මේ වෙළඳ පොලේ පවතින මුදලට ලබා දෙන එකත් අද උදෑසන ඉඳලා අපි නවත්තන්න කියන එක ඔවුන්ට දැනුවත් කළා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම මේක යාවත් කාලින නොකිරීම පිළිබඳව අපි පරීක්ෂණයක් පවත්වන්නත් කියලා තියෙනවා.
This is a standby arrangement if you have no fuel when you come in. These arrangements were there earlier. In 83 we had it, you know, in 88, 89. It's a standby arrangement. There's no need for anyone to this thing, but while doing a duty, in the non-parliamentary week, MPs cannot go and ask for fuel.
Few members wanted them to go back soon. So therefore they wanted some fuel. They asked me to book a hotel for them to stay here. So this is the position.
Meanwhile, tensions were high today near the World Trade Center in Fort after the Inter-University Students' Federation tried to get through barricades set up by the police. The police were forced to fire tear gas and water cannons at the protesters to disperse them after a court order was issued by the Colombo Fort magistrate, preventing them from entering the area.
The Inter-University Students' Federation held a protest march today under the slogan "Chase the Gota Ranil Conspiracy Government, Change the System" in front of the Nelumpokuna Theatre today. The protest march made its way to the World Trade Center through Town Hall in Colombo, Ibanwala Junction, Maradana, Technical Junction and Peta. Due to this, heavy traffic congestion prevailed along the roads. Further, based on a request made by the Fort OIC, the Fort Magistrate issued a court order preventing the protesters from entering and marching down Janadipati Mawata, York Street, Bank of Ceylon Road, Lower Chatham Street, Mudalige Road and Hospital Street. The court also said that the protest should be held in the Fort Police Division with none of the protesters entering any government institutions or official residences, causing damage, obstructing the officers on duty in the area, and without resorting to violence and illegal activities. However, once the protesters reached the World Trade Center in Fort, they had attempted to break down the barricades set up on the road, preventing them from going any further. With this being the case, the police then fired tear gas and water cannons at the protesters in the hopes of dispersing them. Some of the protesters had thrown the tear gas canisters that were fired towards them back at the police. In the meantime, many people who were frustrated by the lack of fuel and gas staged protests in Colombo. One such protest was carried out at the Bandaranayaka Junction in Halsdorp today. The people in the area had lined up empty gas cylinders across the road and prevented vehicles from passing by. As such, the Kotte Thalawathagoda Road, the Colombo Kandy Road, the Gaul Road, the Kalutara Matugama Road and high-level roads were blocked by people who demanded fuel and gas.
And we'll be back with more stories right after this short break. Do stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. Now, Prima Ceylon Private Limited announced that it will increase the price of a kilo of wheat flour by 40 rupees with effect from today. Accordingly, the new price of a kilo of Prima wheat flour will be 243 rupees and 50 cents. In this backdrop, the Ceylon Bakery Owners Association announced that the prices of all bakery products, including bread, will be raised by 30 rupees with effect from midnight tonight.
Prima Ceylon Private Limited Company has announced a price hike of its wheat flour by 40 rupees per kilogram with effect from today. Accordingly, the new price of a kilo of Prima wheat flour will now be 243 rupees and 50 cents. However, the recent price hike comes close on the heels of its last 40 rupee price hike that was announced on the 19th of April this year. Meanwhile, under the circumstances, the Old Ceylon Bakery Owners Association announced that the price of a loaf of bread will be increased by 30 rupees, while other bakery products will be increased by 10 rupees, each with effect from midnight today. Old Ceylon Bakery Owners Association President N.K. Jayawardena confirmed to AdaDerana News that this will lead to the price of bread ending up between 170 or 180 rupees with effect from tonight. Addressing the media today, Jayawardena explained that the industry is facing a major crisis that makes it near impossible to continue operations due to such steep increases in raw material prices.
මේ රුපියල් 40 වැඩි කිරීම කීයටවත් අපිට දරා ගන්න බෑ. පිටිමිල්ට සාපේක්ෂව නෙමෙයි අපි මේ මිල වැඩි කිරීම සිද්ධ කරන්නේත් පිටිමිල්ට සාපේක්ෂව රුපියල් 10ක් 15ක් තමයි පාන් ගෙඩියට වැඩි වෙන්න ඕන. නමුත් අද වෙනකොට බේකරි කර්මාන්තයේ මේ ඉන්ධන අර්බුදයත් එක්ක කිසිසේත්ම කර ගැනීමට නොහැකි තත්ත්වයක් උදා වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ තියෙන අපහසුතා ඉන්ධන නැතිකම් සියලු ප්‍රශ්න අභියෝග හැමුවේ අද අපිට සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම පාන් මිල වැඩි කිරීමක් සිද්ධ කරන්න. ඒ අනුව අද මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රියේ ඉඳලා රෑම් 450ක් බර පාන් ගෙඩියක් රුපියල් 30කින් වැඩි කිරීමට අපි සමස්ත ලංකා බේකරි හිමියන්ගේ සංගමය තීරණය කරා. ඒත් එක්කම පාන් හැර අනිකුත් සියලුම ෂෝටිස් වර්ග මේ වගේ දේවල් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා බේකරි හිමියන්ගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරන පාරිභෝගික ජනතාව අපහසුතාවට පත් නොකර සාධාරණ මිලකින් මේවා වැඩි කරන්න. අපේ සාමාන්‍ය සංගමයේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි හිතනවා රුපියල් 10කින් පමණ පොඩි කෑම මිලත් හෙට උදේ වෙනකොට වැඩි වෙයි කියලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මේ මිල වැඩි කළා හරි මේ කර්මාන්තයේ තව දින කීප කරගෙන යන බැරි මට්ටමක් උදා වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මං හිතන්නේ ඉදිරි සතිය වෙනකොට අපිට මේ කර්මාන්තයෙන් ඈත් වෙන්න පවා සිද්ධ වෙයි කියලා අපේ යම්කිසි බයක් තියෙනවා.
Now, the Fort Magistrates Court today ordered for 8 suspects, including the Mayor of Moratuwa, Samandal Fernando and Dan Priyasad, who were produced in court today, to be remanded until the 25th of this month. Deputy Solicitor General Lakmini Girihagama, making submissions before the court today, called on the Fort Magistrate to not grant bail to the suspects, as the incident on the 9th of May had caused major public uproar.
The 8 suspects, including Mayor of Moratuwa Saman Lal Fernando and Dan Priyasad, who were arrested by the CID yesterday in connection with the attacks on the Goldfish Green and Temple Trees on the 9th of May, were produced before the Fort Magistrates Court this afternoon. Deputy Solicitor General Lakmini Girihagama made submissions to the court today regarding the offences committed by each of the suspects. After presenting the facts, she requested the Magistrate Court to not grant bail to the suspects, as the violence on the 9th of May had caused public outroar, especially with regard to how the law will be enacted. Meanwhile, appearing on behalf of the Mayor of Moratuwa Saman Lal Fernando, Attorney-at-Law U.R. De Silva said that his client had not gone to Gotagogama on this day. He went on to say that even though his client had given a speech at the Temple Trees regarding why former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa should not resign, his intentions were limited to just that and nothing else. In the meantime, President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratna made a special statement on behalf of the victims of the 9th of May incident. He stated that this situation could have been completely avoided if Senior DIG of the Western Province Deshabandhu Tendakon did not neglect his duties. He added that if the tear gas and water cannons were used at the Goldfish Green to disperse the crowds, this wouldn't have taken place. As such, Fort Magistrate Tilina Gamage then questioned the CID as to why the law has not been enforced against the officials who let this incident take place. In response, the CID had stated that even though they had received statements from the officials, they said that this still needed to be verified. However, the Fort Magistrate expressed his strong displeasure at the response of the CID, questioning as to why there were double standards in the way the law was being enforced when it comes to state officials. After considering the facts, the Fort Magistrate ordered the 8 suspects to be remanded until the 25th of this month.
Now, anti-government demonstrations held at the Goldfish Green continued for the 41st consecutive day, calling on the President to resign. Meanwhile, the Gotagogama village has now expanded to include even more facilities, including the new tear gas cinema that screened films last night and a beauty salon as well.
Anti-government protests at the Goldfish Green continued today for the 41st consecutive day. The protest, which began on the 9th of April, continues to attract larger crowds, showing that their calls for a change in the government won't be silenced anytime soon. In addition, various groups joined the protest site last night as well, showing that enthusiasm for expressing frustrations against the government shows no signs of dying down. At the Goldfish site, protesters are making strides towards turning the Gotagama village into a fully fledged community gathering place. Accordingly, protesters commenced the screening of movies yesterday for the general public at a newly installed outdoor cinema that has been labelled the Tear Gas Cinema. Further, commemoration ceremonies to mark the 13th anniversary of the end of the civil conflict worked off at the site last night as well. What's more, a brand new art installation was installed by protesters at the Goldfish Green agitation site. Another unique, protesters have also taken steps to set up a beauty parlour at the site as well. Several people were seen receiving haircuts at the Gotagogama beauty parlour today. Meanwhile, in what could be the first sign of the site being officially acknowledged, the official legal division of the protest site received a letter delivered by the Sri Lanka Postal Department today. The letter has been addressed to Gotagogama. In the meantime, anti-government demonstrations near Temple Trees was also worked off today. Further, CID officers today summoned a group of protesters from the Temple Trees site to the Kolpiti police station to record evidence on the riots that took place on the 9th of May.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe held discussions with former President and current Speaker of the Maldivian Parliament, Mohamed Nasheed. During the discussions, the former President of Maldives generously offered to assist Sri Lanka in securing relief for the country from foreign nations. The Prime Minister accepted the former President's offer and appointed him to coordinate the relief efforts. The Prime Minister thanked former President Nasheed for his support to Sri Lanka during the economic crisis. Now, former minister under the good governance regime Navin Dissanayake believes that all politicians and people must come together and support the new Prime Minister in his policies to revive the country. Speaking to Indivari Amuwatta on our current affairs program at Hyde Park today, former Minister of Plantation Industries Navin Dissanayake made these remarks, explaining that this is the country's best shot at recovery. Disanayake also called for state-owned enterprises to be privatized in a transparent manner in order to ensure losses are minimized.
Speaking to Indivari Amuwatta on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, former Minister of Plantation Industries in the Good Governance government, Navin Disanayake stated that privatization was the only solution for loss-making state-owned enterprises.
In the public sector, there are loss-making entities. What other entities can we utilize in such a way that it spurs revenue within the country rather than just looking at the foreign exchange crisis only?
Of course. So there are certain models that you can adapt. One is what I call the Margaret Thatcher model, where she privatized British Airways, and you do that in a very transparent way. You get a valuation done, and then through the valuation, you invite expressions of interest, and then you sell the shares either 48%, 49 or 50% in the share market. That's one model. But you have to have a transparent process for that. Otherwise, the state entities will be ripped off by very greedy entities who just want to make a profit out of our institution. But the political will to do that has to be there. I'm very happy that Mr. Wickramasinghe mentioned about Sri Lankan Airlines. I saw a graph recently where Emirates was managing this. Their profits were slowly going up. And all of a sudden, because the state head were not given some seats when he went, he came back 24 hours later, he took Sri Lankan Airlines. And then from then onwards, 35 billion loss up to now per year. Cumulative loss about 200 billion. So how longer can you sustain these entities? The BC Law and Electricity Board, we've told them to break it up into 5 units so that there'll be a marketing unit, there'll be a purchasing unit, there'll be a distribution unit. Like that, so much of reforms could have been done, but they don't want to reform it. They're very happy with the status quo. The hard message to the Sri Lankan people will have to be told to them that these loss-making institutions can no longer be sustainable in a modern market-driven economy, because it cannot be a state-driven sector. It has to be a supply and demand-based, market-driven, where every rupee or dollar is accounted for, and there are corporate heads making a profit for the institution.
In the meantime, Disanayake added that political unity is critical if the country is to overcome its dire economic crisis.
So you never wanted to break away and go ahead with Sajith Premadasa and his
No. I thought that was a mistake. I thought Sajith made a mistake, and I also thought that Ranil also could have been a bit more accommodating to keep Sajith in. The heart of the UMP was with Sajith. I believe that all forces have to unite to defeat the Rajapaksas.
When you say all forces should unite to beat the Rajapaksas now, there is a massive protest and agitation against the Rajapaksas and their government. Politically, the United National Party is in a unique position with Prime Minister Ranil Wickramasinghe, who is heading the government. Will the United National Party use this as a springboard for a revival?
The vast majority of UMPs boycotted the last general election. This decision by Mr. Wickramasinghe is really to salvage the economy of this country. As a leader, you have to stand up, you have to deliver. Otherwise, you're shirking in your responsibilities. There was a voice saying a non-politician should be the Prime Minister to unite all the forces. Sajith, for various reasons, did not want to take it up. He put some conditions that were not acceptable to President Rajapaksa. I don't think Dalasal Haperum was ever a starter. And then it came to Mr. Wickramasinghe. Given the history of challenges the UMP has faced, given the leaders who have stood up when there's a crisis, I think there's a very strong tradition that is in the UMP. That is why I think Mr. Wickramasinghe took this challenge. So I think in that context, we as Sri Lankans, I'm not saying we as UNPers or we as Podujana Peramuna supporters or we as JVPers, we should look at this as Sri Lankan and give him a chance at least, maybe 3, 4, 5 or 6 months to revive this and get us going again. Let us get together and revive the economy. That will surely salvage our own people.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. We hope you join us tomorrow at the same time. Good night.